What's going on, guys? So today I'm going to show you how to build the ultimate photo and video editing PC with a cheeky bit of gaming. Okay guys, so today I'm going to show you how I went about building this PC that's behind me, and also the reason that I selected the parts that I did, which I think is a little bit more important, so that you know what parts to select and what you need to buy to build a PC similar to this, so that you can edit your photos and edit your videos and play a bit of games, obviously. This might not be the cheapest computer, it might not be the most expensive either, but the parts that I've selected and put together are sort of within a good budget range. And remember that this PC is not just for today and for tomorrow and for like this year. This PC is meant to last you a couple of years from now. The PC that I've been editing on all this time, all the photos that you see on my Instagram, on my website, and all these videos up until this one have been edited on my old PC, which is about 7 years old now. So that's a long time for a computer to last you. So this is a pretty good investment. It's meant to last you a long time so that you don't have to go about spending money over and over and over again for years to come. I've decided to build this computer because I enjoy working on a Windows PC. I do have a MacBook just for emails and for a little bit of work when I'm on the go, but my main editing rig is a desktop PC with Windows on it. So when selecting your parts, the motherboard that I decided to go with was the Asus Z270 TUF Mark II. And the reason I went with this motherboard was because I wanted a few more USB ports because I've got a ton of external hard drives for my photos and my video backups. So I can plug them all in at once. I still have my USB keyboard and my mouse plugged in as well. Now, whether you want a motherboard with a ton of USB ports or a ton of PCI Express slots so that you can have multiple graphics cards is completely up to you. Maybe you want a bunch of RAM and you need more slots for that. Get a motherboard with that. The best way to do this is simply just Google. Anything you Google for PC parts you'll find really quickly. So this motherboard also has NVIDIA SLI or SLI, so that you can plug multiple graphics cards into it and run them in like sync. If I want to upgrade in the future, I don't have to buy a whole new motherboard and everything like that. I can just buy another graphics card and slide it in place and then run them together. There's also 4 RAM slots on this motherboard so that I can upgrade that in the future. I've decided to go with 2 16GB sticks of RAM from Crucial called Ballistics. They're 2400 MHz RAM. The megahertz rating of the RAM that you're using doesn't really matter. It's not utterly important. It's more important to have more RAM if you're going to be doing multiple processes and running tons of things in the background. One with 2 of these 16GB so that in the future I can buy 2 more if I want to upgrade to 64 gigs of RAM. If I don't have enough, that is, which is very unlikely. 32 gigs is quite a bit for now. Now I've obviously gone with 2 sticks of this RAM, so if you're running dual channel RAM, you'll see that on your motherboard there's slots that are color coded, either black or white. And the reason for that is that if you're running dual channel RAM, you have to slide your RAM into those slots so that they run together. For the processor, I've decided to go with the i7-7700K, and the K at the end of this means that it's analog, so basically you can overclock this processor and just like pump it out and like crank it to levels of unknown power. Not really, but you can up it a little bit more. So this processor runs at a standard of about 4.2 GHz, but if you overclock it upwards, you can get it all the way up to about 5 GHz per core, so that just like gives you a little bit of extra power. But there's one thing that you need to remember, is that this extra power means extra heat that you have to get rid of and disperse. So you need a CPU cooler for that. And I've used the Rajentek ADOS Black CPU cooler. I'd actually never heard of the CPU cooler until I decided to build this PC or heard of this brand at all. It was way cheaper than any other CPU cooler I could find, and it seems like it's going to work pretty well.
Okay, so let's get into the actual building of this thing. Just open your box and take out your motherboard out of this anti-static plastic. And on the motherboard, you'll see this little lever, and this is where your processor goes. So you'll see on your processor, there's this little nick in the top left corner, and you just have to basically align that with a nick on the top left on the motherboard. And with that, it'll sort of just drop into place really easily. Once that's done, you just have to close the lid, pop the lever back in, and chuck out this top piece, and you're ready to go. Okay, now to put on the CPU cooler. The CPU cooler comes with a couple brackets, so these two, just put them on and then screw it on together. And this is basically just so that you can fasten it to the motherboard. I've put on the backplate on the other side of this motherboard at this point. Then you have to apply some thermal paste, and this is just to create a seal between the CPU cooler and the CPU so that there's no leaked heat or anything like that, and to transfer heat evenly. I just use a card to simply apply this and just make it a bit easier and smooth it out so it doesn't mess everywhere and get all blobby, even though it is kind of messy. So you should actually wear gloves for this, but I didn't. Remove the sticker from the underside of the CPU cooler, place it on top of your CPU, and then apply the last bracket, screw it in, and you're done.
Now it's going to seem confusing with a ton of these little wires and little things on the motherboard, but they're all very clearly labeled, and if you just read the actual manual that comes with the motherboard, you'll understand where everything goes. And there'll be a bunch of like janky wires just hanging around, but if you look on the motherboard, they're very clearly labeled as well as on the cables. This motherboard that I actually bought came with a little slot that you sort of slide all the pins in together and then slide that entire like disc thing into the motherboard, so that you don't have to fumble with the tiny little cables. So once you've got the majority of the stuff plugged in onto your motherboard, in your PC case you'll see that there's room for these tiny screws. What this does is it raises your motherboard off of the back of your computer case, but there's no wires or any metal parts touching together from the back of your computer case. So the first thing you'll do is plug this I/O plate, which is just a plate with the portholes in it, into the back of your PC case so that your motherboard aligns with it. You're simply going to lower your motherboard into your case and fasten the screws into there. Now I couldn't find the screws that came with my PC because I'm stupid. Until I eventually, right at the end after I've built the entire thing, I looked in the box of the NZXT case and I found like a packet of screws. The screws that I used were actually old from my 7-year-old PC that I found in my cupboard. Next up is the power supply. I've gone with the Corsair RM650X, and this power supply is actually quite overkill for this rig. I really don't need something this powerful, which is 650 watts. Most power supplies over about 600 watts are completely unnecessary in my opinion for like the standard PC. If you actually Google, there's actually a ton of tools out there. I think Cooler Master makes a really cool one where you can actually input all the parts from your PC that you've just built, and it will tell you what the wattage is, and you just need to buy a power supply with a similar wattage to that or a little bit more. Now I've gone with the 650 as I said. So if I want to upgrade to another graphics card in the future, I'll have more power for that to run them together. Something interesting about this power supply in particular is that it's modular, which means that you can actually unplug the power cables for certain things from the power supply. If you don't need them and you don't want extra cables just hanging around your PC, you can sort of just unplug them, store them in a bag, and when you need them in the future, you can plug them in and use them. The power supply is also fairly simple to plug in. All you have to do is remove the back plate of the PC and slide the power supply in and then screw the back plate on again. This one was kind of more difficult because of the case design, so I actually had to plug the stuff into the motherboard first and then slide the power supply in. But you'll see, depending on which case you get for your computer, you'll sort of figure it out. It's quite easy as well. The manual covers pretty much everything. Okay, next up is the GPU or graphics card. So I've gone with the GTX 1070, the Sniper White Edition. And the reason I've gone with this is that I wanted it to fit the black and white theme that I was going for this PC. Everything's sort of black and white, which really fits this room that's behind me as well. Everything's black and white, some walls are black, some walls are white. My desk is black and white, so I really wanted this computer to fit into that theme. So you may actually be able to find cheaper parts depending on the computer that you're building. But because I wanted everything color corrected, I sort of spent a little bit more as well, just to make sure that everything sort of fits together. So for the GPU, all you have to do is you have to remove the back plate again from the back of the PC and just slide it in, and it slides in and clips into place, and you just screw it back and you're ready to go. And once it's in, there's actually ports on your graphics card that you need to power separately to the motherboard. So you got to give it some juice, and you got to find the cables from the PSU that we installed earlier and just slide it into your graphics card, and once that's in, it'll power up and it'll be good to go. After that's all done, just find the rest of the cables and plug them into your motherboard. They sort of all fit together, and you can actually look in the manual as well for which cables go where, but they're sort of very easy to see what plugs into where. And once that's all done, you're pretty much done. All you have to do is slide the back of the PC case on and slide the front back on, and you're ready to go. Okay, so I went a bit overboard with this and decided to get a new monitor as well. The reason being is my old monitor was an IPS display, so that means different angles that you looked at it from meant that the color changed and sort of the intensity changed. So that's not really ideal for video work or photo work. So the color is shifting. So that's not something you want, especially if you're doing graphic work and color specific work. So the great thing about this monitor is it's also a 144p monitor, which means it's a little bit more than HT, so you get a bit higher DPI, so you can't really see the pixels that clearly and not everything's blocky. Similar to a standard HD monitor. I'm an idiot when it came to this. I really struggled with the unboxing. There was like stuff falling out everywhere when I just realized I could have just turned the box over and like slid it out, but instead I wrestled with it and just like tore the whole thing to shreds. And again, this was easy to assemble. All you have to do is literally just slide the back of the monitor onto the stand and it clips together and you're ready to go. Okay, so we're in the final stages now. All you have to do is you plug your PC screen into your computer, turn it on and see if it boots. If it does boot, then you just have to install Windows or whatever operating system you want. Your computer's ready to rock and roll, and you can get editing your photos, editing your videos, and start making cool art again. I made a massive mess while I was building this PC with boxes and crap everywhere. So I had to basically clean it up and just put my PC back in the place where I wanted it, which is on my desk where all the rubbish was. Once I'd finished, I'd realized this one last satisfactory piece to this entire build, and that was removing the sticky plastic from the glass window on the side of the PC case. And then I was greeted with even more joy when I realized that there was actually more plastic on the inside and I could just peel that off.
Round 2.
Oh my goodness.
Just look at that. Alright guys, so once again, thanks so much for watching. I really do hope that this helped you with building your PC or sort of getting an idea of what sort of PC you need and what sort of parts you need to build your own photo and video editing PC, and obviously for some gaming. Never forget that. So please don't forget to subscribe and like this video if you did like this video, and share it. Maybe it'll help somebody else out there build their own PC. Cheers.